What's up, everybody? This is Josh coming to you with another episode of the Affiliate Marketing Show. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest affiliate marketing news, tips, and trends. Per usual, I'm Josh from OfferVault.com, the industry's largest aggregator of all things affiliate marketing. We also have the king of calls, Mr. Adam Young, as well as the industry legend, Harrison Gevirtz. We also have the CEO of Blitz Metrics, a digital marketing company which partners with schools to train young adults, offering courses, implementation, and consulting. He's also the co-author of one of the best-selling books on Amazon and social media, The Definitive Guide to TikTok Ads. He spent $1 billion on Facebook ads across his agencies and agencies he advises. He is the Million Jobs Guy, on a mission to create 1 million jobs via hands-on social media training, partnering with universities and professional organizations. That's not all. You can find him quoted in major publications and on television, such as CNN, The Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, NPR, and LA Times. Clients have included Nike, Red Bull, the Golden State Warriors, Ashley Furniture, Quiznos, down to local services and businesses. Spoken at over 750 conferences in 20 countries, flown over 6 million miles in the last 30 years to train young adults and business owners. And guess what? He speaks for free as long as the organization believes in the job creation mission and covers business travel. Last but not least, you can find him hiking tall mountains, eating chicken wings, and taking Cocoon oxygen baths in a city near you. And just so you know, I had to look up how to pronounce cocoon. I didn't know if it was cocoon
but you can't
or
pronounce
whatever.
Quiznos.
I cannot pronounce Quiznos. I do know that their subs are extra toasty. Dennis, real quick, what's a cocoon oxygen bath?
You get in a tub and the oxygen level's so high that it just bombards your body. And when your oxygen level increases, your mind is better and your body's able to heal itself for 2.5 hours. Your oxygen level goes up and then it falls back down.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate the explanation there. Thanks for joining the show. We're going to jump right into our headline of the episode. And guess what, people? Health IQ is back in the news, and Forbes is actually not taking the side of the people being affected by it, but they've put out another article that's kind of showing all the alleged lawsuits and the money that the people are owed, but they are on the hook for much larger amounts, owing at least $75 million in loans pledged against its existing and future assets. They go through a long laundry list of people, including one of our friends of the show, Dave Mamain from WeCall. But Adam, I want to know your thoughts on this. This has been a passion project of yours, if you want to call it that. But it's good to see Forbes kind of listening to the people. I actually read the whole article and I was impressed. I thought it was a really well-written article. It goes into the actual day-to-day of how the industry functions for anyone who's not familiar with the space. But what were your takeaways from basically the flip side of what we've typically been discussing here?
Well, just to rewind, first of all,
and Dennis, this is the only story that has made an appearance in multiple episodes. So I know you're probably like, what the hell is this thing?
Well, this in AI technology, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So first and foremost, the disclaimer's coming back. You better believe it. All right. So what happened here was Forbes wrote an article about the CEO of Health IQ getting funded again by Andreessen Horowitz, while Health IQ was literally exploding in a dumpster fire of flames. And they wrote this very rosy Silicon Valley article about Andreessen and the CEO of Health IQ. And then someone from the lead generation industry saw it. They posted it in a whole bunch of social media channels, including the Ringba channels. And a bunch of people who were not paid commented on the article. I think, and this was on LinkedIn, I think there were like 30 or 40 comments from lead generators complaining that they haven't been paid. And then the writer of the article actually reached out to all of the lead generators who commented on the original article and wrote this follow-up piece, which I think is fantastic. I don't think it's going to get anybody paid, but it's nice to at least see them acknowledge that maybe their first take of the CEO of Health IQ was not great. And it's funny to see this after Forbes has put all these wonderful entrepreneurs on the cover, like Elizabeth Holmes and Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of FTX.
They never learn, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. They never do their diligence. It wasn't that complicated to actually go and find the lawsuits that are listed in the article for Health IQ. They don't even Google these companies before they write the articles. They must not, at least in my opinion, because if they did, they'd see the like 500 one-star Indeed and Glassdoor reviews on Health IQ that are just a ridiculous read. And so I'm glad Forbes wrote the article. I don't think the story's changed here. None of the Ringba customers that are mentioned in the article and many that aren't mentioned in the article have been paid to the best of my knowledge. And I also don't believe that any effort whatsoever has been made by Health IQ to communicate gracefully, apologize, or even attempt to pay any money whatsoever for the leads that were sent. And what I found interesting about the article, though, is it brought up that a few of these lawsuits, or maybe one of them, I don't know how many, but actually accused Health IQ and the management of fraud, specifically stating that the CEO of Health IQ said to send as much traffic as possible or buy as much traffic as possible because they weren't sure if they were going to make it and they wouldn't be there to pick up the check. Now, I don't know if that's true, but if that is true, that's just absolutely
insane.
Crazy. Yeah, absolutely crazy. And the apology that he wrote in the article, I'm very sorry that I lost your money. That certainly wasn't directed towards the lead generators because he didn't lose their
investors.
money.
Well, there's a second
money.
half to that. I'm very sorry that I lost your money, and for that you have my deepest apologies, which I kind of found to be a little humorous. Something else I found weird was, it seemed when the company got started, the focus was around people who are actively working out. Your average day Harrison Gevirtz, we could say. Very healthy individuals who are very, committed to staying the right path with their health. But then basically last year, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but they kind of transitioned from that to Medicare, which in my eyes is a completely different end consumer.
Well, I think, Josh, it was a couple years ago, but you're absolutely right. Health IQ started as an organization that was making an app that was going to help people who were healthy buy cheaper insurance. They could track their health. Yeah, it was like Fitbit sells insurance based on the health of the customers, right? That was the dream. That was the vision. That was what was sold to investors. And then a couple of years later, when they didn't get any traction, they didn't make any money, they didn't have a lot of revenue, they decided to start slamming outbound dialing for Medicare customers. They eventually cut all their other lines of insurance and then entirely focused on Medicare. And it was, they were very aggressive in their outbound, at least based on what's written on Glassdoor.
Allegedly.
So yeah. So, what happens when you don't make any money and your original vision fails is you pivot. And don't get me wrong, I believe in the pivot. You should definitely look at a market and change what you're doing to get a better outcome. But man, when big VCs have your nuts in a vice, as this situation sure looks like, they decided to go way too aggressive. And, it all exploded. What was amazing to me, though, is that on his next startup, led by Andreessen, he raised something like $50 million without a product after completely blowing up this business and screwing everybody. So,
how are these VCs so good at what they do if they just throw I don't understand. It's crazy.
Well, you just back the founder, I guess.
Also, obviously, they're going to deny and dispute everything, which it says here in the article. But how do you just so strongly deny and dispute $75 million?
Well, that's the loan they owe. I don't think they're disputing that. I don't think they've publicly disputed that they owe any of the lead generation folks money either, Josh.
It says alleged unpaid balances in lawsuits, $17 million.
Yeah, 17 million. I know for a fact it's more than that because I have spoken to more Ringba customers alone that are owed more than that. And some of the people listed in the article and in the lawsuits are not Ringba customers. So, that amount is somewhere in the 8 figures. But I don't think they've acknowledged or denied that they owe these people money at all. I don't think they're communicating with the debtors that are lead generators at all. I just think they pushed them to send as much traffic as possible, fired everyone, and then just straight ghosted. And they're going to try and get away with not paying anything.
Yeah, I have a feeling this probably isn't the last time we're going to be talking about this, but it is an interesting story that I'm definitely down to continue following here. You know who should be working on their personal brand? The former CEO of Health IQ. But what's interesting here is that Dennis, we're going to talk about an article I found on your blog, why you should not be working on your personal brand. Can you please elaborate? Because honestly, we had some guests on the show recently who talk about how important the brand is. And this headline kind of caught my attention. So what do you mean you should not be working on your personal brand?
If you've got a strong personal brand, you've got people that are already talking about you. And if all I hear from you is how awesome you are, you're a douchebag. Have you ever been to a restaurant where it says world famous hamburgers? They're like, we're the best. Like, you don't believe that. I think Harrison and I, we were in California one time, and I think we were going through like Palo Alto, kind of a gang area of Palo Alto, East Palo Alto. And there's signs saying this is the safest neighborhood. This neighborhood.
Don't go there.
It's drug.
Wait a second, gangs in Palo Alto? What are those? A bunch of former Apple employees who decided they wanted to start their own commune? How fucking dangerous can it be?
Look, but Palo Alto sounds nice, Adam. A lot of it is really shitty. It's crazy.
East Palo Alto on the other side of the 101. That is not what, it is not
Those
nice
are the people who use tabs instead of spaces in Vim? Or like, I'm not following.
So anyways, you're in Palo Alto. What happened?
So there's barbed wire and there's gang areas and whatnot.
Oh, right. Safest signs
that say this is a safe, drug-free, crime-free area. So if you have to say it, like imagine if I had to say, I'm handsome and intelligent and charming and all that, what would you think?
I mean, I say that to people every day. But
if I told everyone that, how handsome and charming and smart and rich I am.
Is it a pod or are we on video? I mean, there's conditions here.
You'd be a douchebag to tell everyone about that. So I see Harrison working out every day, right? He's in the gym. He's even got this fake gym background for the Zoom background. And he doesn't need to say that he cares about his health. He doesn't need to say that, he's eating right and working out. Like, I can see it. I can see it in what he's doing. I can see it in his body. And if you looked at me 6 months ago, I was, oh shit, fat. I was like, damn, look at him twice fat. I was like Walmart red hover cart fat, right? No, maybe not that fat, but I was fat, right? Now, if I was trying to give Harrison fitness advice as fat as I was, how much credibility would I have?
None.
But if I'm ripped and he can see that I can bench 260 and I'm clearly fit and I'm giving him fitness advice, probably a little more cred, right?
So Dennis,
let me ask you this. The article says someone else should work on your personal brand. And so walk me through that. Are you saying, let's use me for an example. Are you saying I should not be personally working on my brand or anything? I should build a team? Like what do you mean by this?
I'm saying if you are credible and you do what you do and you're Mr. Paid lead ads guy, pay-per-call guy, then you've got a huge community of clients and customers, which you do, that are raving about you. Your customers do the work for you. That's what social media has made visible, right? Great restaurants don't need to do great marketing. They have Yelp and the customers do the work for them. So the reason why I say that we shouldn't be working on our own personal brands is kind of tongue in cheek. It's that the work that we do from a marketing standpoint is collecting and amplifying and saying thank you to all the people that love us because our customers do our work for us. If you look at anyone who claims to talk about how they need to have a strong personal brand, usually it's a consultant that's selling social media and they're just talking about themselves all day long.
It's true. Few names come to mind. So let me ask you this. I have a question for you that's not on our list, but I'm going to throw it out there. If the CEO of Health IQ were to hit you up and say, hey, clearly I fucked up my personal brand, what would you do to serve this person? How would you change the narrative? Besides paying your bills.
I couldn't fix it because it's an underlying look. Social media and digital marketing and PR and all that is not about trying to change the facts. It's about amplifying the good things that are already there. Let me give you an example. So you ever had Cheerios?
Of course.
Yeah. So Cheerios approached me and they wanted help with social media. And who wouldn't want to take on Cheerios, right? Part of General Mills and all that. And their complaint was all these GMO people were on, like every time they make a post on Facebook or Twitter, all these GMO people would say Cheerios uses GMO wheat and whatnot. And they wanted us to help with that. And I said, I can't do that because the more we amplify, the more these GMO people are going to come and hate on you and comment on every post that you have. You have a product issue. It's not a marketing issue. You're not taking care of your customers. You know, it's like the Budweiser trans thing they had going on or whatever, right? So I said, I can't, as much as I'd love to take on Cheerios, I can't take you guys on because you have an underlying product issue that can't be fixed with marketing. And so they did a few years later, eventually fix it so that they don't have any GMO wheat, whatever, in Cheerios. And now we could work with them. You see, marketing only fixes marketing issues. If you have a core issue with what people have to say about you, like the Health IQ and you know, how they ripped off all these affiliates that didn't get paid for the leads, it's not a PR issue, right? You can't fix a broken bone with a massage.
So, Dennis, I also know mentorship is a huge thing in your eyes. And one thing I saw on your site was that your mentor was the former CEO of American Airlines, Al Casey. So before we talk about the concept of mentorship, I'm curious, how did the former CEO of American Airlines become your mentor? Was that through a job? Like, were you hired to work with American Airlines and that's kind of how it came to be? Or was this all way before any of this was going on?
This is way before this. He came to speak at my university, Southern Methodist, where I was an undergrad. And you ever go to a lecture or whatever and someone important is speaking, and then at the end, you know, the lecture's over and most people just walk out of the auditorium because they're off to the next class, they're off to do the next thing. There was nobody there. So I walked all the way down there and I just asked him a couple questions because I thought, well, this is the CEO. He knows a lot. I mean, he was the Postmaster General. So he was in charge of 200,000 employees and all the little white trucks and changing the price of the stamp, you know, to raising it by a penny. And so I just asked him a couple questions and he liked me. And he said, son, you have a smile so bright, you could sell toothpaste. And so we built the relationship and he mentored me. And that's how I got my job. I tried to apply at American Airlines. They wouldn't even accept me. I wasn't qualified, I guess. You know, I wasn't a good interviewer, but the CEO pulled some strings. And that's what I've learned. You know, I was jaded before all that. I thought, why is it that other people are getting ahead of me or I'm more qualified, but they know so-and-so? And I realized, you know what? It's all about making these kinds of connections. And that's how I've been able to get my advantages. And mentorship is how you help other people. You know, Harrison has always been super successful and super smart and all that. But, you know, he and I did a whole bunch of stuff like 15 plus years ago, building connections, traveling.
He's a wee lad. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, I hung out with Scott Richter yesterday, you know, one of Harrison's friends from way back in the day.
How's Scotty doing?
He's doing this gambling thing. He's on social media. So he's gotten out of that whole affiliate and ringtones and whatever thing. And he's flying to Vegas and playing the slots. And now he's the slot guy. He's getting millions of views on playing the slots on Facebook and TikTok and all. It's crazy. He's completely reinvented himself.
Can you explain this? Because I'm not familiar with what's going on here. So what is he doing? Is he's setting up a stream of him playing the slots?
I love Scott Richter, and let's just say that he has taken his habit, I'm using that word lightly, of gambling and turned it into a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I guess it's monetizing, but I have a feeling the gambling losses may outweigh the YouTube ad rev, but I wouldn't know.
We're gonna just need to have Scott on the show.
Yeah,
yeah.
Scott, hit me up, josh@offervault.com. Also, please send us your questions. We would love to answer them here on the show. Dennis, the article about mentorship, it says bringing back a timeless model for success. So I'm curious, in your eyes, do you feel like mentorship has kind of fallen out of like it's I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but it's not as popular today as it used to be?
Well, the idea of the influencer is kind of this hero, Elon Musk, Iron Man, Batman, like this one hero who's invincible and all by himself. This hero is able to make everything happen. And maybe there's like, who's the butler guy in Batman, Alfred or whatever? There's like these other people behind the scenes that are helping out. But I think young adults especially have this mistaken idea that you can just be this hero influencer doing everything. And the idea of mentorship doesn't seem as cool anymore. I know I'm generalizing.
No, I think you're onto something. People are like afraid to ask for help more now.
It doesn't look cool or it looks weak but before, if you go back 200, 300 years, the way people got jobs or they grew businesses was they worked as an apprentice. They worked at the shoemaker or the baker or whatnot for a few years at a reduced wage to learn how to do that business until eventually they became their own butcher, baker, or whoever. That's how it worked. And this is before the American kind of college system. This is the way the world has always been. And this is the way that you learn, is from other people that are experts in that area.
So what's your favorite way to mentor people? Like someone's trying to make their way.
How do you find those who you mentor? Because I know this is something you focus on, and like I've met some of the people that you have mentored a long time ago. You worked with me, you mentored me in many ways. What's your strategy there?
Well, I put stuff out there on the internet. I have almost 1 million followers on Facebook, and then there's all the other sorts of channels. And I go speak at these conferences. Harrison, you and I have spoken at conferences in Singapore and LA and New York and San Francisco and all over. And we speak at universities, we speak in these big hotels, and people will come up, and you never know who the next Harrison Gewirtz is going to be. It's incredible. I see a lot of people, and I point back to Harrison as an example of a kid who was 14 spending money on his dad's black card and going around, doing all kinds of cool stuff. And now he's a successful business owner, multiple businesses. There's a lot of Harrisons that are out there, and I'm super lucky to know a lot of them. And they'll see, us speaking on stage, or me arguing with Mark Zuckerberg on CNN Live in front of 3.5 million people, or things like that. And they see that there's an opportunity. Let me tell you something it's going to drop very soon. So Jake Paul approached me, and he said he wanted to create a program to be able to help young adults become influencers and start their agencies. We spent a year together filming. No one's really seen this yet, but we're about to release this because he approached me and said that, he talked to Brad Lee and Dan Fleshman and Mark Lack and these other guys, and they all said, Dennis is your guy for building these courses and programs. So when he reached out to me, I thought it was a prank. I didn't think it was actually Jake Paul. And it was. And we filmed all these interactive choose your own adventure kinds of videos because we want to create mentorship at a larger scale. And then it goes back to the original question, Josh, you asked. Imagine, Josh, if I said, I'm almost 50, okay? Like I'm old. I'm an old man now. Can you, if I said to you, Josh, hey, I'm going to help you as a young adult, actually, become successful, as a digital marketing agency serving local clients, versus Jake Paul says, hey, I'm going to help you become an influencer and use that to, grow a business, because I once did a landscaping company when I got started, before I got started with, Disney and all that. What would be more credible?
I'd probably say you.
Really? Oh, that's because let's say you're some 15-year-old.
Yeah. No, definitely the guy I know from my childhood. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm leveraging Jake Paul because he came to me and said, you know what, we have a common mission. And we're taking all these, there's 300 videos that he and I made together. And there's all kinds of behind the scenes of how this works and how I coach Jake Paul. So if all these kids and folks not so young see that I'm coaching Jake Paul, they're going to say, this guy must be credible. So I'm not the one working on my personal brand. I got VAs that are doing it. But more importantly, you're known by who you associate with. And that's the whole point of these other articles. The whole point of mentorship is that instead of you cold calling and doing all that kind of stuff, you have other people doing your work for you. Other people are what drive your reputation.
Now, when you were working with Harrison as a young little lad, did he have a lot of excuses, or was he pretty much, I'll do whatever you tell me to do?
Harrison was one of those people where I couldn't figure out exactly how to put this into words, but he's one of the hardest working people I've ever seen, yet he's also able to have fun. Like, I remember we had a get together. We had this mansion in Boulder, and it was so big that even in the bottom basement floor, we had this like 12-foot screen, and these kids are playing GTA. I think one time we had like 25 people over that flew in from all over. We flew in Mike Everhart, Chad was there. We had a bunch of these different apartments, and Harrison was smoking a ton of weed.
Tons. I don't even smoke weed anymore. Who am I? It's crazy.
But the thing is, he was so playful. I remember he'd have his BlackBerry, and he could text faster than I could with the BlackBerry behind his back. Do you remember that? You would do that?
I miss BlackBerries. These things are cool, but BlackBerries.
You had a BlackBerry Curve and an 8820. And we go to these conferences. We hang out with Scott Richter in Denver at his office. We were constantly having fun, but the whole time we were also working. And that's what I couldn't understand about Harrison, even to this day, which is, how is he able to be like working hard all the time, but not be an asshole, but still be playful, still make it look effortless. Like when we travel to, LA at the Westin, we bring Austin or these other people with us, and we go to the pool and get kicked out by the security guard because the pool closed at midnight. How was it that we're still working, but we're still having fun? Like, I remember we were at the Sheraton, and you ordered room service from Morton's and ordered steaks for all of us. Remember that? Dean and you and Mike.
I had this weird obsession with airport hotels. Now I've outgrown them and try to go to nice
Ritz
places.
Now, but yeah.
Yeah, I prefer the Ritz.
Well, Dennis, the reason I ask you about excuses is because I know you have an article on your blog about how you've heard them all, especially it's kind of a problem with newer people in the digital marketing world. So why do you think it's such an issue in our industry, and what can newer people trying to get their feet wet in this industry do to kind of not fall into that bad habit?
Well, you can either make 1 million excuses or you can make $1 million, but you can't do both. And what I see with young adults, especially because, and I'll just say it this way, I might get canceled, but I feel like all the men are becoming women and all the women are becoming men, and, guys are getting soft. You can cancel me now. But, hey, we got to get stuff done. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're driving leads and you're being held accountable to the performance, you can't go to, whoever you're selling leads to, or go to Google Ads or go to the client and say, oh, I had a mental health day, or my dog got sick. Or, yes, I get that. I had one of the guys on our team, one of his grandparents died. So he took 2 weeks off. Then 2 weeks later, the other grandparent died. And actually then, like 3 grandparents died. I don't know how many. No, grandma. Yeah, 3 grandmas died. I'm like, how many grandmas can you possibly have? So I see some people, they spend more time on the excuses.
What is the most ridiculous excuse that someone has fed you for not doing their work, where you were like, this can't be real?
Oh, they said that, I'm not going to name the guy, but they said it was already done, and then they linked to Lincoln Basecamp's our project management system to work that I did. So they tried to turn in my work as their stuff. In a bigger company, you can get away with that, but it happened. We're a small enough company, and it just happened to be something that I did. Like, how come you're trying to turn in my stuff as your status report? What the hell are you talking about?
I have a clarifying question. What exactly is a mental health day?
Well, it's like South Park. There's that episode in South Park where they take all the mental health days, and we're all snowflakes, but
I saw the episode. I just don't understand it. I come from the mental philosophy that I can't guarantee I'm the smartest person in the room, but I can guarantee that I'm the hardest working. And if you're gonna try and rise up in a business or start a business or be an entrepreneur, like, there's no work-life balance. You have to outwork everybody and set the example and, fight for your success. It just doesn't come. You got to put in the time. It just never made sense to me. And to your point about Harrison and you having fun, he still has fun when we work on stuff. We always have fun. I think if you can't have that kind of attitude where you're really loving what you're doing and having fun while you're doing it, you're not going to be able to put in the required hours to really be successful. Exactly. Sure, 9 to 5. Yeah, fine. You do your 9 to 5, whatever. But if you want to excel and grow or start a business or be an entrepreneur, surely in performance marketing, you really got to love what you do, because 40 hours a week is a fallacy.
A key kind of principle or like line that I've always kind of said is that regardless of what I'm working on or what I'm focusing on, the moment that I think it's like, the moment it starts to feel like work is a problem, and I got to figure out why, because I don't like, it doesn't feel like work. I enjoy what I'm spending my time on. I enjoy putting effort into these things. And if I'm waking up and I'm like, this feels like I'm going to like dig holes, it's tough. And I haven't really felt that before. And I've also never dug holes, but.
I watch your Instagram. You're essentially flipping tires and banging hammers on rubber. I'm not sure.
So maybe I'll do a construction internship one.
I think if I gave you a shovel, you might enjoy digging holes.
Point taken. Very good. Yeah, it's true.
Dennis, I know you've spent a lot of time with some pretty big people who are very good at what they do. And I'm curious, what's like a very common trait that you continually see in them, especially people super high up that maybe are billionaires or multimillionaires? What's the one thing that they all do in common that you think is a part of their success?
This is something that you might find surprising unless you've been around other people that are billionaires and at the top of the game. If they are at the very top of their game, they're also world-class in multiple areas. So my friend Katie Swords, she was the NCAA champion in the 10,000 meters. That's all women, D1 in college, fastest runner. But she also
it used to be.
Yeah. I
recently competed in the same 10,000 meter as Harriet, so.
I was one of the slowest Americans.
Okay, we're going off the rails. Let's rein it back in. All right, go ahead, Dennis.
But she also was valedictorian, and she played for the Australian Philharmonic, and her Russian was so good that she fooled one of the Russian studies professors that she wasn't native Russian. And you see this time and time again with people who are at the very top because they're so driven. They're driven in many different areas. My friend Tony Schmitz, we worked together at American Airlines, and he started 3 companies in completely different industries that all became NASDAQ traded. And he was also a hardcore pickup basketball guy and played, guitar at the professional level. Like, everyone's got a friend who plays guitar and they're really good, but I'm saying at the pro level. So this is what you'll see. Like, look at Naveen Jain. He's a billionaire. He runs Viome. He also started a bunch of these sites that, harvest your name and sell your information and that kind of thing. But he's got a license to harvest the moon, right? To mine the moon. The only one who's got a license to do stuff like that and is involved in so many different areas. And that's what I find is so incredible about people who are at the very top, not just people who are very good, but people who are at the very top have what I call a spike profile. Because if you find that, they're also good in 2 or 3 other completely different areas. Like this guy I met 3 days ago in Las Vegas, Frederick da Silva. You can look him up. He's arguably the world's #1 mentalist. And we made a video just to prove it. Like Harrison would recognize this. So he said that he could guess my pet rabbit's name or my pet's name. And he was able to guess it without me telling him anything, without looking it up on the internet, without whatever. My friend was next to him, asked a friend to guess a number 1 to 100 and got the number. I mean, the guy literally reads other people's minds. But he was able to guess Mr. B is my pet rabbit's name. And Mr. B died 10 years ago. And it was never on social media. Harrison saw Mr. B.
I've met Mr. B before. He's a real, he's real. He's legit.
But Mr. B was never on the internet. Mr. B, maybe I posted a picture many, many years. There's no way this guy would have known, right?
Just out of curiosity, What were some of the questions he asked you to get to that answer? Was it like a running through the alphabet, trying to see like when you blinked, or like?
No, he asked, so he held my hands, he looked in my eyes, and he said, say your pet's name over and over. Just say it. I have it on video if you want to see it. I posted it on Facebook like yesterday or something. I was so mind blown. And he said, it's first letter is an M. Is that right? It's an M. I'm like, yeah, it is. And he says, and it's 2 words. It's like, yeah, it is. And then he's like looking, he said, okay, say the word. And he's holding my hands. I'm not moving my mouth. I'm intentionally like not trying to give him any signals, right? I'm trying to be all poker face about it. And then he's like, Mr. B. I'm like, how the fuck did you get that?
Dude, that's so spooky, man. Going back to the billionaires, would you say that another big quality you find is the way that these people prioritize their time as well?
Yeah. When I was with Naveen, who's a billionaire and hangs out with Bill Gates and flies private jets and all that kind of stuff, I asked him, so how do you balance work life? Because obviously he's healthy. He's, taking care of his son and daughter who are also super successful. And he said, work-life balance is a lie, because at any point in time, there's one thing, like maybe you have an emergency, your son has to go to the hospital, and that becomes the priority today. But then tomorrow you're closing a round, you're fundraising. And the next day, this other thing happens. So every day, overall, you're in balance. But any particular point in time, one thing takes the priority. So it's just trying to balance between those different priorities. And this guy works all the time. I think he sleeps 4 or 5 hours a day. Not that that's a good thing, but I've seen other people and they've told me the same thing.
Do you sleep more than 4 to 5 hours a day, Dennis?
I actually sleep 7 hours a day.
I'm impressed. When I was around Dennis all the time, Dennis was like king no sleep. It was pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah, but you're also with me. So that's the pot calling the kettle black, because we're staying up late working and whatever. Then we have a flight at 6 a.m., right?
It's true. I'm not really a huge sleeper. So
yeah, but we're getting stuff done. We're high on life and high on other stuff too at that time.
Adam, you're a really big advocate of work-life balance, right?
Look, I'm an advocate of doing what you love at all times. And if that's the case, then balance isn't that necessary. I mean, look, I think that having alternative experiences is really important so that you can constantly see shifting perspectives. For instance, I like to read. I like to take walks. I listen to podcasts. I listen to books. I travel a lot. I talk to a lot of interesting people. We do podcasts. I do creative marketing work with our marketing team. I do normal business work that you would expect a CEO to do. I help create product and design things. And so my days are not typical. They're hopefully really focused on one task or a couple tasks. I try to keep as few meetings as possible on my schedule so that I can focus on doing deep work. But there's a lot of variety in there. And so it's not mundane. It's always interesting. I'm always learning. And so if you ask me if my life is balanced, I would say from a mental perspective, it is always something unique and challenging. And so to me, it feels balanced. But if you look at it from a perspective of how many hours is Adam putting into work, for instance, it's an absurd imbalance that I think most people aren't willing to do. But in my world, that's what I want to do. And so for me, it's a very fulfilling, exciting process where I'm always learning. So I think the work-life balance conversation is a really nuanced one. But if you want to accomplish anything amazing, or you want to get really great at personal growth or any specific skill, or you want to accomplish anything in life, you're going to have an imbalance towards those goals. Otherwise, you're likely not to achieve them. For instance, if you want to look as ripped as Harrison right now, 1 hour every 5 days in the gym just isn't going to cut it, right? So you're going to need to have an imbalance towards working out. Or if you want to be an incredible athlete, like the runner we were talking about, that person is spending 7 days a week focused on their goals to actually achieve them. And a 40-hour week with breaks and a lunch in between is just not going to get you there. And so the real thing about work-life balance is, what do you want to accomplish in your life? If you want to be balanced, then that's your goal. Then sure, you can have work-life balance. You can have, a bunch of mediocrity around at all times. But if you want to be exceptional at anything specific, and that is your goal, imbalance is the only way to really achieve it, especially if you're not halfway up the mountain already, or especially if it is not a competitive, or if it is a competitive area. If it's a competitive area, like in business or athletics or something like that, there's always someone out there who's working really hard to eat your lunch. So if you're not going to be willing to live in an imbalanced way, you're not going to be able to compete. And if we're talking about competition, right? Like if you want to compete with Dennis Yu in his agency business and his goals, 40 hours a week ain't going to fucking cut it. If
you only reply to emails between 9 to 5 a.m., I mean, I've seen Dennis email me at 3:32 a.m. So
of course,
I was messaging with Dennis last night at like 11 o'clock. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so, to finish my point here, if you're going to compete with Harrison in the gym, you have to do at minimum what he's doing. It can't be 2 days a week to get the same outcome. It's not going to work. If Ringba's competitors want to try and take our business away or win, they're going to have to put in a hell of a lot of time, energy.
I was going to say, Adam, they're going to have to sponsor some land. Oh wait, we already got them.
I thought you were going to say they're going to have to sponsor the podcast, but yeah, that works too.
No, but to your point, Harrison, for LeadsCon, for instance, what did we spend? 5 years working to get the lanyards?
It was an uphill
fighting
battle.
For that. Yeah, exactly. It's an uphill battle. Everything is an uphill battle. And if you're not willing to work harder than the people who are already at the top of their game, then you're not going to be able to compete with them. And that is something that I think a lot of young people, and I'm not saying that this generation or that generation, I'm just saying, like, look, I was young once too. And a lot of young people don't recognize that they have to put in an immense amount of work to be super successful at anything. And the moment that someone gets over the fact that they're going to have to work day in, day out, all their waking hours to achieve something incredible, is the moment that they might actually have a chance at achieving it. And if they're not willing to put that work in, it's just not going to happen for most people. And that's really the recipe for success. If you can hustle your ass off, work incredibly hard towards something, and not make the same mistakes twice, you'll eventually achieve whatever your goal is.
Dennis, going back to you real quick on this prioritizing time topic before we move on, are there any actionable ways that you recommend when you're mentoring people, how they can prioritize their time, like real things that they can tangibly do to become more efficient?
It's like what Adam said. What's that one goal you have? And then every day when you wake up, write that thing down. Put it as your screensaver on your phone and chase that one thing, because otherwise you get distracted by the noise of social media, interruptions. At the end of the day, you feel like you've been busy, but you haven't actually got anything done, or gotten what's called the big rocks first. So my buddy Perry Marshall, who wrote this 80-20 rule, you've heard of this 80-20, him and Richard Koch, who's a billionaire too, they go on bike rides and whatnot for like 3 hours during the day in the beginning of the morning and all that, to focus on that one big thing. And then they allow, the universe or subconscious or prayer or whatever to tell them, to help them solve these problems. But that's because they're doing that deep work, like Adam mentioned, to solve that one problem. And they have to, and it looks imbalanced because they're focusing just on this one thing and saying no to everything else. So if you want to be mentored by me and you want to grow an agency in cosmetic surgery med spas, then you should be hanging around cosmetic surgery med spa people all day long, the best digital marketers, going to the conferences, doing whatever's necessary, hiring the VAs, and doing better than all the other people that want to do that one particular thing. So it's a maniacal focus, like Adam talked about. But most people,
and if your customers, Dennis is so exactly right. And the way he described it, I really love. If you're going to focus on those med spas and you want those med spas to see, hey, this new agency owner, maybe they don't have the experience of the big agency, but look how hard they work. Look how much effort they're putting into our relationship. They're going way above and beyond everybody else. I'm going to take the risk on this person and give them the business. And I think what people don't talk about when they start businesses is that your customers are taking a risk on you. And so you have to demonstrate to them that that risk is going to pay off in an improportional way than them taking the safe route. And that's one of the hardest things about starting any business, whether it be software, agency, or whatever. So you have to convince these customers, these new customers, that you, a new person in business, are worthy of their time, money, energy, and risk. And the only way to do that is to spend every waking hour trying to serve those people. Spend every day you can with them, talking to them, helping them. And sometimes it's not profitable. You got to spend way more time with someone than you might want to, but that's how you build the reputation.
Yeah, I'm at a med spa right now, and I just witnessed a liposuction. This gigantic 10-pound jar of fat and stuff that's in there. And because I'm helping build another agency in this space with one of the top lipo doctors on the planet. I actually flew out here.
Did you go have donuts after the procedure, or were
I'm literally in one of these hosted operating rooms?
Oh, nice, dude.
After seeing that procedure, did you decide to skip lunch today, or
it makes me think twice about eating hamburgers or French fries.
This next segment is brought to you by Ringbud, the industry's #1 call tracking platform. Dennis, are you buying the hype on pay-per-call? Do you think it's really taking over as much as people seem to think it is? Are you incorporating it into your business endeavors? What's your overall thoughts on that part of the space?
Most people can't run their own ads successfully. They'll hire agencies. Agencies are horribly incompetent because the price of Google ads has gone up. I spent all day yesterday with Larry Kim in Boston. He was the #1 spender on Google ads on the planet, 2% of Google's global ad spend. And even he was saying the same thing. Everything's shifting to a performance marketplace. So if anybody can, I know Ringbuzz just made an announcement. I would love to be able to lean on other folks who could do pay-per-call for.
We're going to cut that out, Adam.
Yeah, we're
cutting that shit out. Sorry.
Oh, you didn't say anything yet?
Okay.
I thought you made an announcement.
Okay.
All right, cut it out.
I'm trying. Should I re-ask the question, Adam, or should we just let?
No.
Larry
we'll
Kim.
Just edit it.
Wait, yeah. So Larry Kim, biggest ad spender, talking about pay-per-call. Why don't you take us from right there, Dennis?
So Larry Kim is saying because the cost of traffic has gone way up, we now have to work with people who can sell us those leads, who are specialists in driving the calls, so that we can then, have our intake team answer those phone calls, high quality salespeople doing this. I think the need for a Ringba is increasingly important because of the cost of traffic and the penalty for being wrong. And because agencies are more and more incompetent and there's more and more traffic sources, the world is just more difficult to drive leads now.
And do you think people's use of picking up calls and using the phone for advertising is only going to continue to increase? Or do you think we're close to some sort of plateau because of how popular it is right now?
I think it's going to increase. I mean, people are talking about AI-assisted agents that will, make calls for you, or your bots that answer the other bots. But when it comes to things like professional services, where you need to talk to someone about your money, about your insurance, about your health, about a car accident, about all these things, buying a house, I think even more the backlash to all this AI and tech and social media is that I need someone I can trust to talk to. And I think the idea of talking to a real human is even more important.
It makes people crave human interaction. Like even I, the other day, I had an issue with my DoorDash, and I went to support, and it was like, our system has determined we're giving you $20. And I was like, fine, but where the fuck is the human? Literally, I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy. It literally just loading. We're giving you $20. I'm like, I wanted someone to tell me they were giving me $20. Yeah. So it's the same.
Well, could you imagine using an AI chatbot to ask a med spa what liposuction's gonna be like? If you're nervous about a surgery, you're like, "Hello, chatbot. Tomorrow,
I'm asking ChatGPT right now."
Yeah, when you amputate my toe,
Well,
no, you're gonna want to talk to a human.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, the former CEO of Health IQ, his new company, Hippocratic AI, I believe it's called. Isn't that part of what it's supposed to do, is basically replace like an agent in the healthcare facility with a chatbot?
Well, I will tell you right now that there is no chance I would ever trust that man's technology anywhere near my health. Not a fucking chance.
Yes. I just asked ChatGPT the following. I said, "You're an automated answering service for a plastic surgery center. A customer calls and asks why I should not be scared about liposuction. What do you tell them?" And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I would be scared of liposuction if this bot finished it with, "Remember, every surgical procedure carries some degree of risk." That's literally the end. Like, damn, dude.
It's so ominous.
No,
just like ... Yeah.
Yeah.
Dennis, I got one more topic for you before we let you get out of here. I want you to talk to us about how you approach goal setting for yourself as well as for clients that work with you. What are the most important parts of setting goals, and what are the most important ways that people can achieve those goals they set?
So goal setting, people have talked about. The personal development people have a lot to say about that, but I'm a big fan of the old-fashioned SMART principle, right? Goals that are specific, measurable, accountable, realistic, and time-based. And what the difference is between a goal and a dream?
Has a deadline.
Yeah. It has a deadline, and it has some specific components that you need, steps that you need to take. I think most people, because they're confused about goals versus dreams, they never achieve their goals because it's still in the dream stage. And the minute you put a date against it, like a lot of people, they want to write their first book. So I'm working with some people and helping them get their first book out. And they, everyone's like dreamed of getting their book out or speaking on stage. I'm like, let's put a date against it. And then from that date, let's back into the different things that you need to do. You want to run your first marathon? That's a great dream. Choose a marathon. Choose, there's the LA Marathon, March 3rd or whatever it is. Then let's back into the 6 months of training that's necessary to get you there. Let's figure out all the logistics that are part of that. And then you have a realistic plan to achieve that goal. And I'm a big fan of setting huge goals. And for example, I've created 250,000 jobs because of onlinejobs.ph. John Jonas is our friend. I remember Harrison and I were talking to John Jonas or looking at onlinejobs.ph like 15 years ago. And because I want to create more VA jobs and hire more VAs, I've flown out to Utah to John Jonas's house multiple times to talk about what are the great things about VAs, and also make training for the VAs that you want to work for American businesses. Here's what you need to do. And I made that happen by literally just putting dates on the calendar, even when it's inconvenient, to fly out there and do that thing. And now, a couple other mentors of mine said, you're the million jobs guy. Yeah, you should set this big dream. So I said, yeah, I'm here to create 1 million jobs, and we're a quarter of the way there because of our partners. And I was in Pakistan twice last year. I was with the president in Kosovo. Do you know Kosovo is a country? It's actually a country of 2.5 million people. I met the president of that country, and to help create jobs, right? So when you really care about something and it's your goal, like Adam talks about this thing, you live, sleep, eat, dream the thing, you will naturally be in the right places and do whatever is necessary to make that happen. And for me, for creating jobs, I have to in order to really honor that, I have to be at these big conferences. I have to be, with the largest players that hire VAs. I have to be with different governments in India and in Pakistan and other places in order to make that happen. If I don't have that, then there's no way. I mean, people could then say, well, you're not really honoring your goal. So a lot of people, they say, I want to play in the NBA. Okay, great. How many NBA players do you know? Do you have other coaches? Can you talk to coaches of other people that coach players? Are you a real student? Like, it's very obvious to tell whether someone's actually in the game or whether they're just dreaming, right? You tell me a goal and you and I can quickly tell, are they doing those things necessary to put them in the right place to even be in the game, right?
So we all know you're the million jobs guy, right? I'm curious, what is the second biggest goal that you're working on right now? Whether the million jobs is number one or whatever, that's fine. But what's like the other big goal that you're working on that we might not know about?
I want to help all entrepreneurs be able to live at their maximum level of focus and energy. And that means getting them into the oxygen water and having them drink the oxygen water and learning about what the impact of oxygen is on your body. And my friend, Dr. Lyons, is the one who founded this whole thing. I think he's going to win a Nobel Prize in the next couple of years because of the research of oxygen's impact on the body. I myself am living proof of that, right? If you didn't see my health journey, if you didn't see my mom who had late stage ovarian cancer and was given a terminal diagnosis, be able to overcome that and be 18 months in remission, you know, if you didn't see other friends of mine that have gone through this where they had cancer or some other crazy sort of illness, you know, if you didn't see me doing a 360 at the trampoline park, you know, 3 days ago, you know, on a dunk, I can do a 360 dunk. Can you believe that? Fat Dennis, almost 50-year-old Fat Dennis. All these kids call me OG. Like if I wasn't actively living out my health journey and I was just giving you the lip service, you wouldn't believe me. But because you see what I'm actively doing and where I'm spending my time and the results on my body and the results with other friends of mine that are entrepreneurs, then it's credible.
Well, Dennis, thank you so much for coming on the Affiliate Marketing Show podcast. It was a pleasure speaking with you. We'd love to have you back on later in the year. And I just want to say for myself, Josh from OfferVault.com, the king of calls, Adam Young, the industry legend, Harrison Gewirtz, and the CEO of Blitz Metrics, Dennis Yu. Let's make that paper. Let's make that dough. This was the Affiliate Marketing Show. We will see you next time, everybody.